Hi, this is the head coach instructional video for the Haslett Invitational. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mary Meyer-Frankenfeld. Today we're going to be talking about getting login IDs for students, assigning students to events, and also signing up for self-scheduling events. So the first thing that we need to do is log into the website. So we're going to go to Scilympiad.com/Haslett. And the login button is here in the upper right corner, so click login. Everybody that registered had to create an account, so just use the account that you used to register. And when you log in, it will take you to the head coach dashboard. Okay, most of what we're going to be doing today is on this link, student team event assignment. And if I were to click it, you would see all of my students' login IDs. If you have attended a tournament that uses Scilympiad already this year, all of your students will transfer over in the master roster. Also, the students use the same login IDs all year long, so you don't have to worry about that. And so rather than show you my students' login IDs, I'm going to show a little clip that the Cypress Falls Invitational team put together. And I think they did a good job. A couple things before we go to that clip is because they recorded this earlier in the fall, they have an earlier version. And for theirs, the sign up column is this second column, and then compliance moves over here to the third column. So you'll see them clicking in the third column to get to the roster. Okay, the other thing is here, this student team event assignment. On theirs, it's called student team something roster, because this link will take you to the roster, and from there you can do all of the assignments. And so, but seemingly the creator decided that it would be more clear to rename this assignment. So when they talk about clicking on the button that says something roster, you want to click on this button that says student team event assignment. Okay, so that's everything, and we're gonna go over now and watch the little video from Cypress Falls.
So now, to actually add students to my school roster, I'll need to go back to the head coach dashboard, which was again, well, I'm already in here, but in order to get there again, was coaches and head coach dashboard here. So from the head coach dashboard, to go to the student roster, the way you need to do is just click submit student/team roster. So if I click here, it will take me to this blank chart, a blank student roster. And from here, you have two ways to actually enter your student into this website. The first way is to actually enter manually each of your students directly into this chart. All you need to enter is your student's first and last name and their grade level. And if you want the option to send emails to your student through the website, which I will explain later on, you can also have the option to enter your student's email address into this column. So right now, I'll enter my student's information. So now I have entered all of my students into the student roster, and always after you enter directly into the chart, always make sure to save these changes. And to see the button, you need to scroll down. So you may not be able to see this Save Changes button in your screen unless you zoom out, as right now in my case. So I will need to zoom out. And then right here, the Save Changes button is here. So I will click this button. And now the changes I made are saved. And as you can notice, once I saved my changes, the website has automatically generated a login ID. And note that this login ID is really important because the student will need this login ID in order to access the test on the tournament day. And now moving on to the second method, the second way is to use the import students feature. And to use this feature is to click this orange button that says import students. So I'll click this button and it will take you to this web page where you can upload an Excel file. So what this import student feature is actually you can upload your list of students into the website, and the website will automatically add the student list into your student roster. So it can be a very convenient feature. However, you need to make sure that your Excel file is in the correct formatting. It needs to have a first name column, last name column, a grade column, and it can also have an optional email column. And as my experience with uploading this file, what I found is that you would probably need to make sure to save your Excel file in a CSV format. So here I will show an example of uploading a file. So I will click Browse. And then, so these two are my CSV file Excel that I saved, and this one was the one that was not a CSV file, and this one didn't work. So if I click this, upload, and then click upload file after you put it on there, and you can see that it has automatically added more students into my student roster that was in the Excel file. So once you have entered all your students in the roster, if your student haven't already created an account with the website, you can also use the email student feature, as I already mentioned previously. So what this email student feature is, once you have entered the email address into the student roster, and if you click this email students button, the website will send emails to your students in this roster, notifying them to create an account with this website. And it will also, in this email, send them their login IDs as well. However, if the students already have an account, email student feature will not work. So that means you will need to also send their login IDs manually yourself. One more thing. Please note that the student already having an account in the website doesn't mean that the student has the login ID. Just to make it clear, because the login ID only gets created when the coaches enter the student in the roster. Like after I save changes, that's the only time when this login ID gets generated. So if the email student feature doesn't work, it is the coach's job to actually send these login ID to the students so the students can actually access the test on the test day. So right now, if I click this email students button, it tells me no emails were sent. Students have either registered or been notified previously. However, in my case, the reason this didn't work was because I had not entered the email address in here. And now since we have entered our students into the school roster, it is time to actually put them into teams. And note that this step will only work once the director has assigned your team a team number for the tournament. Like entering your students into the school roster, this is possible even without the team number. However, assigning students to teams, this feature will only work after there's a team number. So in order to get there, since we're already in the student roster, all we need to do is click the student to team button right up here. So if I click this one, it will take me to this page where it shows my students on the left side and also the two teams that I have. And again, the only reason that these two teams show is because the director has assigned both of these teams team numbers. In order to add my students into these teams, what I need to do is just simply check the box right next to their name and click this add button underneath the team I want them to go. So if I click it, they're right there. And if I want to add this student into the B team, she's also added into there as well. However, if I want to remove the student from a team, all I need to do is simply just click this remove button right next to the student's name. So if I click remove, they're removed. So for now, I'll enter these two students into team A and these students into team B. And so now that we have our students in the teams, now what we need to do is to assign them to their events. And in order to do this, first we need to go back to the student roster. So to go back to the student roster, just click this back to student roster button right above the student pool. So if I click here, voila, we're back to the school roster. And then click this plum colored button, should I say, that says student to events. So if I click here, here it will show all the events that this tournament is hosting. And as you can see, you might need to zoom out to actually see all the events. So as it is in my case. So now I can see, now that I zoomed out from the web page, I can now see all the events. And to simply just assign my students to the events, all I need to do is just check the box that I want them to be assigned. And just click Save Changes. However, just note that events in the same color means that they're in the same time block, which means that there will be conflict between those events. So if you double book a student for 2 events in the same time block, the system will pop up a warning that it has noticed a conflict. So if I try that right now and try to save changes, there's a warning saying, warning conflict. A student has been assigned to more than one event in the same color-coded block. Conflicted event is water quality. Click cancel changes at the button. So I will just click cancel changes. Also, as a side note, just note that these yellowish colored events, what these mean is that these events are not scheduled into the time blocks yet. So maybe you would need to contact the director about it or something if these events were listed to be hosted in the tournament. So now I'll click assign my students to their events. And always make sure to click Save Changes so that it saves. And then lastly, as for now, this website doesn't detect the maximum number of students allowed in an event. So make sure to check you haven't assigned more students than the event allows. So always make sure to check that you haven't assigned like 3 students for water quality or something like that.
Okay, we're going to pause right there, and I want to show you what my scheduling grid looks like so that you can just for comparisons. Then you can see what this looks like. So this is what ours look like. This is for the Haslett Invitational, and this is also Team Haslett. You'll see I've got my students already entered, but none of the boxes checked. Okay, this first block, those are the 9 o'clock tests. The blue block, those are the 10 o'clock, et cetera, et cetera. Notice here under Write-It CAT-IT that those are listed as 2 separate events. One for the Write-It CAT-IT catter and one for the Write-It CAT-IT writer. It just makes it easier for the system. Then it can give both the writer and catter their own test, their own set of directions, their own everything. So it's easier. Of course, you only need to put 1 person in the catter column and 1 person in the writer column. As they said here on the far right, those are the self-scheduled events. And so you can see all of those self-scheduled events, and we're going to talk about those next. The thing about self-scheduling events is you first need to put your students into these events. So make sure that each, your students have a little check mark for the events that they're attending. And then we're going to go to, not only do you need to have students assigned to these events, but you also need to select a block. And for that, we're going to, here in the 3rd column titled Sign Up, the first link here is Self-Scheduled Event Sign Up. So we're going to go there to the Self-Scheduled Event Sign Up, and you'll see that I have already opened self-scheduling. And the reason for that is I didn't put any caps on any of the blocks. And so you can sign up at any time and not worry about it filling up, because there's 40 spots and there's only 40 teams attending. So any spot that you want, you'll be able to get. Another thing that I'd like to point out about the self-scheduling is this column called All In. If you are attending the Haslett Invitational with more than 1 team, then all of your teams have to be in the same block for those events with the check marks. So for example, you can see detector building has check marks, and digital structures has check marks. But when we get down to environmental quality, if you have multiple teams that want to do environmental quality, they do not have to be in the same time block. The same is true for horticulture. Those teams do not have to be in the same block. But now we get down to sounds of music. Sounds of music is an official event. Those ones, I do need you to be in the same time block. And the last one is Wi-Fi lab. And if you have more than one team that wants to do Wi-Fi lab, they do not have to be in the same time. Okay, so that's that. So how do we actually sign up? Let's look at detector building. Let's say I want to, my students want to do detector building at 10 a.m. Over here on the far left is the sign up button. I click sign up, and then under this column called your spots, a 1 appears. So these are my spots. If I go down here to digital structures, let's say I want to do digital structures at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The sign up button is on the far left, and I get a 1 there. When I get all done with all of my events, I'm going to go here to show all my signups in the top right corner, this blue button. And when I click on that, it will show me all my signups. It tells me the event name and also the time block. And again, if you have multiple teams, it'll give you the team number and team name. Okay, something else is that suppose a student gets sick or tells you that they can't come, they have a family emergency, it could be anything, but it will happen. And so what you need to do is from this page, you first need to delete their time block. Let's say we're changing detector building. So we're going to delete the 10 o'clock time block, and that has to be done on this page. And then, of course, are you sure? Yes, I am sure. And so then you say, okay, and now you want to go back to the event signups, and your new student says, okay, well, I could do it at 9. Okay, so now you want to sign up for the 9 o'clock. So then you sign up for 9 o'clock, and it becomes your spot. Notice you can't just change. What you have to do is delete first, and you can delete from the show all my signups. You're not going to be able to first get the new time because this says done. You're only going to be able to be signed up for 1 time block at a time. But again, at the Haslett tournament, there are no caps on these spots, and so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, I think that's all I want to show you for this. Be sure to have your students watch the student instructional video. It's got a number of things including like using their login IDs and how to do that, but also some stuff at the end about trying to combat the technical difficulties in terms of enabling Java, various things that Scilympiad would just prefer. And so be sure to have your students watch the student video. Otherwise, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask. It's not a problem. So let me know if you have any problems. Otherwise, hope to see you at the tournament, and good luck.